connect with the Pageflex sales rep. Eric actually has the permission to build the product, so that's always nice. But in addition to that, Eric has about a decade experience with 451. So he knows both sides of it, and quite honestly is in the transition mode himself of really becoming a Pageflex expert in addition to a 451 expert. So he'll be able to sort of talk to it in terms of a 451 coherent person making this transition.
So Eric works for you guys, right?
Yes.
Okay. Well, good. So we'll have access to Eric. Get what you're saying?
Okay. You definitely will. You'll have access to a number of folks, and certainly, just from our side of it, obviously we have 3 months as start. There's still some questions that come up from time to time that we can answer, but the beautiful thing, essentially we're tier 1 support, but Pageflex support is awesome in contrast to 451 support. So if there's a question we can answer, we can get an answer to it really quickly and get back to it. So we're still building our knowledge base, but we're getting there. That's all.
I don't expect, my thought is it's not going to go more than, 30, 45 minutes, but just so you guys know, I've got another call at 10:30, so not that I'm like mission critical to this phone call by any means, but if we're still going, I'm going to have to jump off about 10:20 so that I can be ready for the call, so.
Cool. Sounds good. All right. With that, we'll turn it over to Eric. Can everybody hear me all right?
Yes.
Okay. Perfect. I was having some issues with, I wasn't sure if I was muting myself or not. Okay, so this should be pretty straightforward. As you had said, I'm kind of going to go through it and kind of reference the language that we use in 451 just to help you guys see exactly where the parallels are, what things are different, et cetera. So I have just a sample business card set up in Pageflex. Pretty straightforward, first name, last name, title. They can choose a logo. There are a couple things that are a little bit different, and I can send you guys this set of files so you can kind of play around with it. One thing is the job setup is a little bit different. Excuse me. For storefront. And like I said, I can send this to you and you can kind of see exactly how it needs to be set up. That's basically what I've done. So another thing that's a little bit different is you have to make a packager zip of the entire project. Otherwise, it just won't work. So that's pretty easy. I've already done that, and I went ahead and just added it to the FTP. So you'll have access to the FTP server where all your project files will reside. So here we are, just with the basket. Go ahead. One thing real quick there. So essentially, instead of using 451's uploader tool, these files are zipped and then put on an FTP site. Is that the process? Okay. And so over here, you can kind of see, users, content, purchasing, administration, all of that stuff. We're going to focus on the content part. So for the
Can I ask one question real quick? When you say so we just copy them to an FTP site, there's no upload feature, right?
Right.
Okay.
So,
Sorry.
yeah, that you will have to have. Questions are certainly allowed here. No issue with questions. Absolutely. So I've gone ahead and added this which is pretty straightforward. And then this is actually the list of all the products on the site. So we have our thumbnail, which is automatically generated, and the name, and then the release date that just shows when we made it active on the site. And you can just see some details here. So what I'm going to do now is just add this business card. And so I just click on add and choose my project and continue. And so here we have all of the properties of the business card. So we're going to call this business card 4. There's different text you can put in as far as like what your instructions are, what your product description is, product code, all of this stuff. I just always keep it on thumbnail and it's generated automatically. This does a pretty good job of that. And then I'm just going to have everyone be able to see this product. So here's where we start kind of changing some of the settings to make the preview and PDF and all of that work. So we've got it automatically, brings in the project file, template file, and then this is where we just select the jobs that we want for each one. And so again, it's pretty straightforward, just naming the jobs this way. So want the PDF preview to be PDF job, et cetera, et cetera. Now for this one, we have a multi-up job. So that one, you can do whatever you want as far as what you want that production file to be.
So that's more on the production side.
Yeah.
If your suppliers want to gang or position multiple files up, you can output it that way.
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry, I thought somebody else had a question.
So for that multi-up, do you have a Pageflex file that's set multi-up?
No, that one is set up in the job, in the actual job inside the project file. So I only have the one template.
Okay, so it's automatically putting it multi-up? We just don't use that. I don't understand how that works, but we can skip it.
Yeah, then if that's the case, then that shouldn't matter at all.
Can I jump in real quick? I know it seems like there's a couple people on speakerphone, and I'm hearing another conversation in the background, and the audio is not all that great anyway from you, Eric. I can't hear you very well, and I don't know how it is for other people, so I just wanted to throw that out if there's anything that we can do to either, get off speakerphone or, something to cut that out, because it's hard to hear.
Sure. Yeah, that was what I thought somebody was trying to ask the question. I could hear that too. Is anybody else having trouble hearing me?
No, I can hear you just fine.
Okay. You just, perfect. So, again, with the production option, I always just do hold for manual setup, and then the final output job. Again, this is like production stuff that goes along with the project and template, but that just helps everything be ready for submission. activate it one second. But down here on steps customization, you have some options as far as what you want, how you want these to display. For example, with company name, it automatically makes that one word for the display, and we don't want to do that. So this is just kind of where you can customize the way that the spec form looks. So this shows you where all your variables. So does that make sense as far as in 451, you can look at your list of variables and then you can look at your spec form. Here it's kind of...
Is there a HTML option here?
Yes, absolutely. And we actually have plenty of options that we've been using between other people here at DCI. Between me and some of our other developers, we've been able to do some customization that's a little different than how it is in 451, but the more, it's kind of just figuring out the minor differences between 451 and this as far as the spec form is concerned.
Yeah, so on that side of it, I am definitely not anything more than the stupid sales guy, but as it's been explained to me, essentially in 451, when you've got the same ability to completely customize the spec form. In 451, you're doing it in one place and organizing the page and then plugging in the variables. The way it works in Pageflex is essentially you organize the page around each variable, and then they move the variables up and down on the page as you want to. So the editor is a little bit different, but there's no limitations in terms of being able to customize look and feel.
So where can you access the editor for the HTML?
That might be a good question that I will get back to you on, because we usually, Aaron over here, we usually pass that off to John or Derek or one of the developers, but it looks like there's an HTML controller right under name and use. I don't know what that necessarily does, but we can definitely, let me see if I can get one of those guys on the call. Eric, why don't you go ahead and I will see if I can add in John or Derek to talk through the editor piece. Okay, great. So I'll just proceed with this product. So we have everything set up. We know that our variables have all imported, and I'm not going to go through and update every single one of them right now, just because that'll be time consuming and kind of boring. So we have everything done, and in order to activate the product, we just click on the release button, and it gives you this little message saying this is making it live, and then now Business Card 4 is out on the site, ready for people to order. So I actually went ahead and made another business card with some of those little minor changes already done as far as what the spec form looks like. So here you see what it looks like on the buyer site. So we have it set up so it puts in the default information of whoever this user is. So this was just a sample user. So we went to the business card, and it automatically kind of lists all of their information that's stored in the system. So we'll choose which logo we want to appear on the card, and this is where you get to see the preview of the required, just like in 451. So we'll click update again just for a good measure, and then it's pretty much a similar. These are just some of the options that we included, and the quantities and everything. And it's pretty similar to other, online ordering sites once we get to this point. So I guess that's, a pretty high-level, quick review of how to build the product. As with 451, when you're building a template, most of the work is probably just going to be inside Pageflex, and then bring it into storefront. And like I said, we have a bunch of sample products that are set up that I have found to be helpful to look at and compare against one another sometimes. And those are things we can let you guys look at too, if you'd be interested in that.
Yeah. That would be very helpful to, see the files and then actually have a login and
Yeah. And so
compare the file to what it looks like online.
yeah.
That's exactly what I was going to say, Jody. I was going to say the same thing.
Yeah, you bet, guys. And
It's a joke.
I didn't get John here, but the other thing is too, where certainly there's setup guides, but also, assuming we go down this path, we will have a trainer available. It's not just going to be a, have at it, good luck. Let's be, we'll give you access to a trainer as well as some, support resources, obviously, when you can bounce questions off as site transitions are happening or new sites are getting set up.
It's very good to know. Training is always good.
Yeah, and hopefully, I think, if I don't, I've never built a variable template in my life, so I clearly have absolutely no credibility in making a statement other than just sort of what I've seen. But it seems somewhat similar to 451 to me in the fields that are getting filled in. Obviously, I know there are differences between the two systems, but I guess what's the impression? Aaron, obviously you're in 451 every day building templates. I think the HLIP side of it is pretty similar, or Eric, for that matter. I mean, obviously you've built both now for a while. What are your impressions, Eric, of if a standard product takes an hour to build in 451, is it similar in storefront? Is it a little bit more, a little bit less?
Yeah. The only real difference that I would say from just the standpoint of using Pageflex in 451 or using Pageflex in storefront, the only real difference is just the job setup and then the exporting that packages file. And those things, to me, are pretty negligible changes. It's just a matter of kind of minor adjustments to the way you create the template. So I would definitely say, from the Pageflex standpoint, it does not add any time into it. And I would even say that once we get into creating products inside storefront, that I think it's actually faster to do it inside storefront. So it's kind of two different things, and it all, of course, depends on the complexity of the project. Obviously, with this one, I'm looking to have 15 variables, maybe 10, maybe. So obviously, there's more complexities with that as the project gets more complex. But really, I think if I was building this business card in 451, I think it would take longer for me to do it. Just because, to me, I guess the way I think about it is everything here is a little bit more all in one place. As far as what you're adding, what you're changing.
Hey, it's Pete. I want to jump in real quick because I know you directed kind of that question to Aaron a little bit and then back to Aaron. Jody is actually the one who spends the most time. That's Jody's full-time job. Is all she does is program, build 451 templates and administer sites and all that. So she's been doing it longer than Aaron and I. I mean, I certainly value Aaron's opinions too. So I'd like to hear from both Jody and Aaron, at least what you've seen so far. And, gloves off. I mean, this isn't so you guys are friendly. It's not like I'm worried about hurting his feelings. It's like, man, this is going to be tough, or I see problems here. Maybe we haven't seen enough yet to make that determination, but I'd really, that's the reason for why we're getting on this call now is to start that dialogue. So Jody, I'd start with you. What's your initial thought from what you see?
Yeah, it's all very familiar. I mean, it pretty much looks the same as 451 as far as building a template. Now I'm ready to look at how you build a site and how you manage users and groups and approval rules and, as soon as I've seen this, then my head starts moving way forward. So.
And actually, that was something that the approval rule thing that you just asked about, that's something too that's on at the product level, which to me makes sense. We have this one approval rule here for marketing review, and so there's six ways to go ahead.
It's essentially creating users and groups and approvals and categories and all that stuff is also very similar to what we want, right? It's just form filled. It's not, you're not coding anything necessarily.
Right. I would say it is, to me, a little simpler than 451 in a good way, just because, I'm sure I'm not alone in getting frustrated with having very complicated approval set up in 451.
It's better that approval is at the product level. Much better.
Yeah. It really, really simplifies things.
I have a quick question. Can you clone a product? Because I'm just imagining a scenario where there's, you want to set up an approval on a category and say there's 70 forms in the category. Can you set an approval for one and clone it and just change a few settings and save a new product?
There's not, and I think I actually just recently asked this exact question, because I remember the day that phone tool came out on 451, because it just, changed my life. But I don't think that there is anything that exists like that, as far as, save as, I guess I would.
Not for variable or static products?
Right. And
We use a ton.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah. Eli, that might be something too that,
I'll ask Pageflex about it. I think one,
Definitely. I'll ask about it.
I will, yeah. So
I want to try to understand what you guys are talking about. What I'm hearing is, it sounds like the approval is based strictly at the product level, and you can't go above that. So if you wanted, it sounds like it'd be a lot more work if we had a whole bunch of, products that we're all going to be following the same rule. You have to basically duplicate it for every, you have to do that work every time. Is that what I'm hearing?
Yes, but not just for approval, for anything.
Yeah.
We clone products all the time for the specs and the pricing and the, everything.
right, and I think there's a difference here. The difference in Pageflex is that those things are set up at a site level. So you're setting up pricing, you're setting up an approval rule, you're setting up all of those structural things at a site level, and then you're just assigning them at a product. So it's a little bit different in 451. If you go to, basically you're assigning an approval rule by creating an approval rule in 451. The way that you're doing it here is in the
site setup. So you don't actually have to go and create another approval rule. You just set the approval rule. Similarly with pricing, you're setting up a pricing template, and then you're just assigning it at a product level. And I know it's not. I'm not trying to simplify that process, but Pageflex looks at those things a little bit differently. They basically look at those things as attributes that could apply to a product, as opposed to each product having their own attributes. So assigning a rule or assigning a pricing schedule is a lot easier to do in Pageflex than it is in 451. It's already got something already created, but obviously not. That doesn't fully diminish the value of the clone.
But it does make sense. You don't have to recreate another price schedule.
Right. Yeah.
For the next product. Just reassign it. Right.
Yeah.
So Eli, you're going to ask about that. So I'm not exactly sure what to call that, but I just want to have some action items after this call of other things that may come up. And Aaron, maybe you can make a note. Aaron and Jody, maybe you guys can make notes too, because I know these things make more sense to you than they do to me. So
Okay.
like that's our first one that we need to follow up on. Great. Okay. I'll shut up.
Hello. Eric, does it make sense to just kind of click through user groups and user accounts and just sort of show, that those are kind of very similar in terms of what you're able to do and adding a new user?
Well, yeah, how about like the first step in creating a new site?
Yep, actually the sites themselves, Pageflex treats a site a little bit differently than 451 does. In Pageflex, sites are called deployments, and really what we're going to be doing for you is just giving you a ton of deployments, 100 deployments. So basically, if you're setting up a new site, you would just log into the deployment and you can start building your categories and users and approval rules, products, and those things. So the clicking of the new buyer essentially is something that we would do for you.
Okay.
All right.
Eli, you had talked about getting us some sort of demo environment that or a live environment we can go in and do stuff with.
Absolutely.
Done that yet, or is that something you can get get everyone on the call so they can start poking around?
Yep, we'll give this environment that Eric is playing around with now to you. This is essentially a demo environment that you can do anything you want to with, and you're not gonna you're not gonna sense anything that we're showing up. So feel free to do whatever you want to with this environment.
So you're gonna give us some credentials to log into that, or did you already do that? I just do.
Yep. Okay. Yep. Absolutely.
Okay.
Credentials. Jody, Aaron, I guess what I gave Eric as the sort of mission of this call was to go through setting up a new product. I'll just kind of turn it over to you guys a little bit in terms of what you would like to see, or if you just want to play around for a bit and then come back with questions too. That's might as well.
Well, I would like to see how you set up for that product that we just added, how the pricing table is created, or where the static specs are.
Sure.
How do we assign what supplier it's going to go to and that type of stuff?
Yep, and that all of that was done at that product setup you're trying to do a price markup, essentially you're doing a price markup for all quantities. There's really a way to do a price markup for a particular element at quantity A, quantity B, quantity C. So this allows you to actually get much more granular in your pricing and more accurate in your price markups if you ever have customers, not only that are doing, a standard product like a business card, but also if you ever wanted to, put out your Vistaprint.com site and just let people kind of spec out their jobs, submit jobs. This lets you get granular in your price metrics.
I've got a question on the weight, because the whole shipping cost is just a big hammer in our shoe here. And we've played around with different things. We get disclaimers on the site saying that it's not accurate, and I don't want to say it's a long-term goal. A short-term goal would be to get accurate shipping costs, and obviously the destination and origination zip code is going to help with that. Where do these weights come from? Is that something is there like a standard? I just feel like when we tried to put weights in the past, that we were never close. And I don't know if that's I don't know where people get those weights.
Yeah, well, I mean, in theory, vendors should be providing them to you. Okay. It should be providing accurate numbers. I think here also granularity is important. Ultimately, they've got 3 different stocks here, and in each one of those stocks, there's a little bit varied weights. So the more accurate you are in your weights, obviously you're going to be more accurate in your price calculation. Now the other difference, there's a couple of differences between how 451 handles it, how Pageflex handles it, and how we've gone a little bit further with the custom, I don't know what you call it, module, custom music code that we've written. They can apply to either Pageflex or storefront, or 451 or storefront. Ultimately, the way 451 handles shipping calculation, there's sort of two challenges with it. One of which is it treats a package as though it's coming from one place and going to one place. It doesn't really have a notion of a shipping cost build up coming from multiple locations and going to multiple locations. And then the second thing that they've done is they've integrated a web service that essentially interprets UPS and FedEx rates, as opposed to going to UPS and FedEx directly for those rates. So for whatever reason, there's that web service doesn't seem to allow people to get accurate rates. And the answer we've always gotten on that is, just adjust your percentage up or down based on what we're seeing over time, which isn't necessarily the right answer. Yeah. So a couple of things. Pageflex goes further towards quote unquote correct in that they allow for granular pricing and granular weights and granular weights on your price markups. The other thing
what it boils down to is I got to get accurate weights from suppliers when we do pricing, and hold them accountable to it, and maybe put in some bumps in there and say, listen, this thing weighs a pound. Okay, great, it weighs 1.1 pounds, and see where that takes us. Because ultimately, I mean, for us to really be able to continue to, we still haven't closed out the month of January, the month of December yet, because we're still doing print, and shipping has something to do with that. So anyway, we'll just move on to going back to what's important to these guys. I just when I saw that screen, it's the first thing that came to my mind.
It is important to us too, because in the end we get yelled at because the shipping is wrong.
You get yelled. Who's yelling at you, Jody?
Well, Nancy.
Well, okay, that makes sense. She's just yelling. Happens to be there.
Well, I understand her problem, though. I mean, it's
I do.
a huge problem, and I understand. And we've had so little control over it.
Yep. Well, that's one of the things that we were hoping we were going to. When we were looking at that other system, that's a big deal. You know it, and I know it. Nancy knows it. A lot of the salespeople, they don't really realize what it's all going on, and maybe even people when we're estimating jobs don't even really think that part through. I don't know, but I think if we get good information from the supplier, that's great. We just stopped even asking. I think because it really, we don't use it. We don't use the shipping weight anymore because it doesn't work.
Well, and not that I want to obviously, remove a reason for a migration plan, but the code that we've written can plug into 451 as well. So, even if we're looking at, hey, we want to do this with you guys, but realistically, it's going to take us 6 months, 9 months, whatever it is, to completely transfer everything over. Sure, there may be reason to plug that code in your 451 sites as well.
For certain customers, it may be. I mean, you would just have to look at the cost associated with it because it's $1,500 just to turn it on.
No, you already have order validate.
Oh, okay, order validate. We don't need the other one. We order validate will give us that ability. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, that's something to think about then.
Sure. So, here on screen, you can kind of see what is being done. Adding a unit price break just adds basically the 500, the 1,000, the 2,000. That's your price breaks, and then adding your price inputs for those price breaks. Is essentially what you're doing when you build a price catalog, and then obviously you've got your base price, and then you've got price markups, which is interesting. In some ways, this is, I guess there is no doubt about it. We actually built a completely custom application for price quoting for some customers because 451 couldn't get granular price markups for options. So obviously this sort of renders all of that work useless in large
Let me ask another question here. It says upload price table. Does that mean that you could have if we had a spreadsheet that was the price breaks and the appropriate cost of sell prices? These guys, Jody and Aaron, if they had that spreadsheet, they could just upload it as opposed to right now it's all manual data entry or copy paste.
Yep, you can definitely upload it. And you can have your price breaks and your input obviously in Excel laid out just like that.
I was actually going to mention too that whereas with 451 you can do upload of like users and all that stuff, only it costs like $150 a pop or something like that. This actually gives us the control to upload a lot of things ourselves, which is just very nice.
The key difference there is when Joe, you asked the question about essentially creating a new buyer. A deployment on Storefront, each customer actually has its own database and its own essentially front-end code. So what that lets us do is we can give access to the database to your customers if there's a reason to do that. there's one database and they essentially have to control putting data into it. Here, this database is only affecting this customer, and essentially we have the right to do whatever we want to that database.
So does that mean, I'm just trying to wrap my head around this, does that mean if you could have multiple users with the same names on different users on different deployments?
Absolutely. The username only needs to be unique on that deployment. And, this is something that, may or may not affect you guys too, but each deployment has its own URL. So, it's not, your customers aren't going with multione.com to log on. You can have custom domains, whether it's Regency domain or the client-specific domain if they want the customers to have that be transparent. There's just a lot of things that you can do here that multi-tenant sort of create a challenge for it.
Okay.
Aaron and Aaron and Amanda, you guys have been pretty quiet. Do you guys have any comments at this point or questions or?
I'm taking it all in.
Yeah, I'm just trying to take it all in too. I'm sure there's stuff that I'm not thinking about that we'll have questions of down the road once we start messing around with it.
And one of the things that I found helpful too, and we can talk about doing this at some point, whether it's with me or someone else, is sometimes like building a product yourself and then sharing your screen with me, for example, and just going through it. And then you're doing it. I can give you any pointers if you need help with that. So there's plenty of. I'm the same way when I first started with Foresight. I had no questions, and because it was just a lot of information. But as soon as I got into it, I had plenty of questions.
Well, the big question is, would we be able to move all of our sites over to Storefront? All of our active sites, I should say?
Yes, in theory, absolutely. We want to. The answer to that is yes. There are feature functionality that Pageflex has that goes way beyond 451, and there's feature functionality that 451 has that may go beyond Pageflex. In every case where we've identified a shortcoming of Pageflex, we've written code to essentially account for that. So we've added that functionality back to Storefront. But as we do your migrations, if there's anything that we see
get those from Pageflex?
Do you know what that is, Eric? In the line, yeah, probably with that. 451 actually gets those from Pageflex. So
Right, and they're kind of slow about getting the upgrades for those. I know, Adobe is quick about upgrades, and Pageflex is not.
no, and I just recently upgraded to CS6, and
there's no plugin.
I could check, there wasn't a plugin yet, which is pretty annoying once you start using that plugin so much.
Right, really. Well, I delayed upgrading because of that.
Yeah, and I mean, as soon as I got the upgrade and went to get the plugin, I was like, oh man, now I'm gonna have to wait. I think they had said that it was supposed to come out in December, but if I recall, I was looking for it a week after they said it was supposed to come out, and it hadn't come out yet. So it could be that I just haven't checked in a couple weeks, and it's out now. Because I knew it was supposed to be soon.
And about owning Pageflex license, like we got that for 451, our Pageflex license.
Yep.
So if we left 451, those would be no good, right?
No, they are actually. 451 bought that license dongle from Pageflex. So it actually is the exact same product. But with that said, we also have, I think with our initial storefront buy, we got a package that included 10 desktop licenses as well, but you actually bought that license or Regent,
okay.
So it stays with you.
Cool.
In theory, you shouldn't have to change anything, but even, if you do, we're covered there on the software side.
Okay.
And we've talked to Pageflex about that too, and the license key came from Pageflex. They sold it to 451, and 451 sold it to agencies. So as far as Pageflex is concerned, the license key is bought and paid for.
All right. Well, that's about all I can think of.
We'll get a deployment out here to credentials to log on and play around with everybody. We will also look at I'll pose the clonation question to Pageflex. Is there anything else that I failed to jot down here that I was responsible for following up? No.
I just, real quick, I just want to show you guys, to remind you where you can see the project files and download samples of all of them. So once you have access to the deployment, you'll be able to come here under projects, and you click on each one and download those products, or download those assets.
How would we where is there a download button, right click download?
If you click right on it, I guess this is browser setting.
Can you download the zip file?
No, that's such an annoying thing to me.
One file at a time?
Jeez.
Yeah, and it really doesn't take very long, especially since we're, looking at these for examples. The other thing that is also a little bit annoying is it does not create the infrastructure that project file automatically does. So you'll need to open the TF file that will create all these other folders that it creates. But you'll have all the files and you'll be able to see each product, exactly how it's working. open the FTP server as well, you could, that's the place where you could just download the entire thing, and you wouldn't have to worry about
Putting in the folders and all of that.
right.
Okay.
And that, so we can give them access to the FTP as well to grab some off there.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Cool.
I know, Aaron, the first, I think the video in the first attempt, obviously we maybe missed the mark in terms of showing kind of what you wanted to see. Did this, I guess, get closer, further down the path?
Yeah. Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Well, and obviously, hopefully, playing around with it will open up some other questions that we can tackle, and
You either have good answers for or not, but hopefully it, at the end of the it isn't much difference between setting up a site Pageflex or but you get it and you get something. To this point in time, it's all been all the customers we have on have relied on us to build stuff out. So I have to trust people like Eric and Denise here, but it'll be good to hear your guys' opinion on that too.
Okay, great.
okay. Well, thanks everybody for hopping on. We'll get the deployment information out and respond back. I'll include Eric's contact information there too. So if questions come out that or come up, we can just get some dialogue going around about it. All right.
All right, sounds good.
Good.
All right.
Thanks, guys.
All right.
Yep.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks,
Alright.
Eric. Thanks, Eli.
All right, thanks.
Have a good one.